Hello and welcome to Silverstone for highlights from the 5th round of the 2024 Formula SimRacing World Championship, the British Grand Prix. My name is Edward Hunter and here's all of the breaking news. After a tough start to the season, Alex Siebel has stepped down from his seat at Ferrari and has been replaced full-time by Dutch SimRacing champion Isaac Gillessen. Matthias Stare was absent for this round, meaning Slovakian Pro Race winner Patrick Sevet makes his World Championship debut for Go Team. Finally, Australia's Scott Flack also makes his debut for Super Venturi, filling in for Jukka-Pekka Lally. Owen McGorgy took pole position for the second race in a row from championship leader Yannick Bock. It was Jernej Simoncic who was immediately on the attack though, passing Jake Dennehan off the starting grid before then going around the outside of Sander Kallas through Abbey. Simoncic then dived up the inside of Janos Braksok's Brabham into farm to challenge for third place. Manuel Biancalila did the same to Kallas, but the Estonian then understeered into the side of the VEM through the loop, clearing the way for Dennehan to climb to 5th. Simoncic then completed his move on Braksok by going all the way around the outside through Aintree. Kallas meanwhile lost momentum down the Wellington Straight, meaning he was passed by Gillessen, Ruben Machete, Martin Mergeli and then Michi Hoyo went around the outside of him through Lovefield in a strong first lap for the German. A bad run for Braksok through Kops allowed Dennehan to sneak up the inside of the Hungarian through Maggots to run 4th. Further back, there was a huge scrap for 17th between Giordano Valeriano, Kostas Vanvoukas and Philip Pushke, as Valeriano tried to go all the way around the outside of Vanvoukas through Stowe, leaving him vulnerable to attack from the Evo of Pushke through Vale, who the Italian forced to go the long way round and off track through Club. Vanvoukas then lost control at Stowe a lap later, hitting the side of the Valeriano and sending the VEM off track. Meanwhile, Matthew Williams was fighting off the Go teams of Cosmo Pashito and Patrick Sevet, the home hero going all the way around the outside of the American at Abbey, as Sevet gave a serious challenge to his teammate. On lap 7, Vanvoukas would go too wide over the curb at turn 1 and exit stage right in spectacular fashion. Things weren't going much better for his teammate Stavros Mizadis as George Zalagianis lost control at Stowe during an attempted overtake which left both cars spinning into the gravel. Biancalila, Williams and Valeriano were the first of the front runners to pit on lap 12, but unfortunately Biancalila sped in the pit lane. Machete would pit a lap later from 12th, but Zalagianis' luck would run out once more as another wheel failure at Maggots and Beggots flung him backwards into the barrier and into his 4th retirement in a row. Things then got worse for Biancalila as Flack ran right up farm and made contact as he rejoined. Lap 14 and Martin Mergeli decided it was time to pit. His teammate Braksok followed him in a lap later and was joined by Gillessen and Hoyer. The Brabham driver emerged in 9th. Simoncic responded a lap later and was shadowed in by Kallas and Dennis Jordan. Simoncic would emerge ahead of Mergeli, but Braksok had leapfrogged ahead of the Rafa driver. Bock would then pit at the end of lap 16 to try and cover off the Slovenian, but on exiting he found himself not only behind Simoncic but immediately side by side with early stopper Sevet, who he cleared by then going around the outside of the loop before chasing down Simoncic. Gillessen then used his medium tyres to dive up the inside of the hard-shod Mergeli into Kops. The rookie then continued his charge by breezing past Sevet down the Wellington Straight. Sevet was starting to struggle on worn tyres as Mergeli dispatched him into Stowe. Meanwhile, the two race clutch cars pitted from the lead and emerged either side of Kallas. Dennehan wasted no time in clearing the ground effect with a move up the inside into Kops. Grankvist then pit, handing the lead to Braksok. On lap 20, McGorgy went side by side with Hoyer for 8th through Maggots and Beckett in a supremely brave move. Not to be left behind, Dennehan stuck his nose to the inside through Stowe and went all the way around the outside of the Rafa car through Vale. Contact was briefly made, but it was the Irishman who had the inside, and with it, 9th place. The next target for the race clutch pair was Williams, whom McGorgy passed into Brooklands before completing the move on the outside at Lovefield. Dennehan passed Williams down Hanger Straight as McGorgy had already used the DRS to pass Sevet for 6th, the Slovakian heading to the pits for the second time. Williams decided to stay out on severely worn tyres though and proved to be easy prey for Hoyer and then Kallas, before getting defensive against Gillessen down the Wellington Straight. The Ferrari driver took the outside at Brooklands, which then became the inside for Lovefield, despite Williams' best attempts to hold on round the outside. Callas then dived up the inside of Hoyer at Stowe, only for the Rafa driver to cut underneath to get back alongside into Vale. Callas narrowly held on to 8th as Williams pit behind them. Mergeli could do little to help his teammate as the race clutch steamroller marched on, with McGorgy and then Denahan both making light work of the Hungarian. On lap 28, Braxok made his second stop from the lead, followed in by his teammate. McGorgy meanwhile snatched third away from Gillison with a late on the brakes manoeuvre into Brooklands. Denahan then followed up with another courageous move up the inside into Copse, and Gillison had no choice but to give way. Then the Dutchman was immediately into the pit lane for another set of mediums, emerging ahead of Mergeli. Grankvist was challenging Jordan for 7th, but the Superventuri fumbled, made contact and found himself spun around. This left him alone and exposed, and by lap 29, Braxok was flying past the Filipino Finn down Hanger Straight. Callas then pit on lap 31, followed by Simoncic making his final stop 3 laps later. Bock now led as McGorgy moved aside for his teammate Denahan. Bock could respond to Simoncic by pitting at the end of the lap, handing the lead to Denahan as Jordan also made his final pit stop. Simoncic was narrowly able to maintain the net lead over Bock as Hoyer went around the outside of Prosciutto, who then moved aside for the sister Go team car of Servet. On lap 36, McGorgy made his final pit stop, resurfacing in between the two Optiminal cars. Williams was immediately dispensed of down the Wellington Straight as the Englishman focused on chasing down Bock and Simoncic. Denahan responded with his stop at the end of lap 37 as Braxok re-inherited the lead. Denahan was now in front of the two Optiminals but had been undercut by his teammate McGorgy. Callas attacked Mergeli for 3rd on lap 39 as Bock and Simoncic continued to bear down on those yet to make their final stops. Callas then dumped his battery into Copse to clear the Brabham driver on the inside line. Braxok was now the last of the leaders to pit, meaning Gillison would lead the race on his debut, with Callas hot on his heels. Then suddenly, a stunning scene as Simoncic's engine let go with just 12 laps remaining, meaning the 4-time champion's hopes went up in smoke. He explained what went wrong.
This is the wheel, and this is downshift, this is upshift, this is push to pass. I pulled both pedals at the same time, and before I realized I upshifted into 6th gear, but because it was neutral, I upshifted into 1st. Yeah, you can blame me for being silly and putting push to pass button, which is used every lap 5+ times, next to downshift. Oh, that's such a shame.
With Simoncic out of the picture, Bock now led as Gillison, Callas, Mergeli and Williams all made their last stops for SOS with 10 laps to go, Callas having jumped the Ferrari. By lap 47, McGorgy was starting to push his tyres a little too hard as he could not find a way to challenge Bock for the lead. 3 laps later, the decision was made to swap the race clutch cars again on the exit of Copse, with Denahan now climbing to 2nd. Using his battery, the Irishman inched closer to the Evo as McGorgy defended his home podium from an almost sideways Braxok. On the final lap, McGorgy continued to lose time getting defensive, but Braxok could not take advantage. Up front though was an excellent drive and another spot-on strategy from Bock to defeat the race clutch duo and win his 2nd race in a row, extending his lead in the Drivers' Championship. Denahan fell just short of victory, but it was a strong performance on his return from injury. McGorgy rounded out the podium from a charging Braxok, Jordan held off Hoyer for 5th, Callas and Gillison overcame Grankvist for 7th and 8th on the final lap, and Ruben Machete impressed with his first top 10 finish. Williams backed up his teammate in 11th, Servet hugely impressed to be 12th on his debut, beating the disappointed VEMs of Biancalila and Valeriano. Prosciutto took the final point in 15th ahead of Flack, Musadis and Pushke. Maguli and Zalagianis both retired with wheel failures, Simoncic destroyed his engine and Van Vukas destroyed his entire car. Bock's championship lead has ballooned out to 19 points over McGorgy, with Denahan now 14 points behind his teammate in 3rd, but only 2 ahead of Biancalila. Simoncic's 2nd non-score of the season drops him to 5th, as Braxot climbs to 6th, a place ahead of Grankvist. Jordan remains 8th ahead of Hoyer as Callas finally breaks into the top 10. Race Clutch's dominance of the team's championship continues as they now lead Evolution by 52 points. Rafa dropped to 3rd, just 3 points adrift, as VEM hold on to 4th from Ferrari by a single point. Superventura only 4 points ahead of Brabham in 6th, and in the battle for 8th, just 6 points separate Optiminal, Grand Effect and Netrex. So, Bok doubles up and is in imperious form going into the second half of the season. Is this a sign of things to come, or can Danahan and McGorgy return to winning ways and claw their way back to the top? And will Simoncic's end in destruction be the moment that costs him this year's title? We'll be another step closer to finding out at the San Marino Grand Prix on the 12th of May, but from me, Edward Hunter in sunny Northamptonshire, it's goodbye for now.